Hello, everybody. Mason or Cameron, I am sorry. I'm trying to multitask here. I started to hit this button and realized that Cameron, you were sending me a message through Remind. So, little brain fart to start. That's not a great way to start. So, let me start this again. Hey, everybody, how you doing? Upward Bound group. Um, so, we had a little bit of a glitch during our Zoom meeting. So, I am kind of switching modes here, and I'm going to use this Screencastify um, and then just record a video with some information in there. And yes, Cameron, to answer your question, I'll do my best to show you the method platform and kind of walk you through it. I'm still trying to figure it out too. So that's one thing I was hoping to do today was maybe try to figure this out together and have conversation back and forth. But I'll do as well as I can with that material. So welcome, Mr. Kimble here. I want to give a brief background. I really didn't introduce myself the other day with the previous video, so I wanted to take a moment to introduce myself. Let me change the background here so this makes a little bit more sense. Um, I am Mr. Kimball. I am probably the longest standing Upward Bound member as far as the adult team that we have. This is my I believe my 21st year with Upward Bound. So I've been at this for a long time. I think the only person who's been in the Upward Bound system longer than myself, as far as the adult in the adult capacity, is Mrs. Caffey. I'm not sure if she's still doing anything with Upward Bound or not, um, but she, I think, is the only person who's been here longer than I have, and she far exceeds my time with Upward Bound. But I've been here longer than Miss Robinson and Mr. Porter, who's fairly recent, and then many of your teachers. So a little background on myself. I did start teaching at Alton High School. I taught 7.5 years at Alton High School, which is why I'm still connected to Upward Bound. That's how I got connected to Upward Bound and why I'm still there. Um, the half year, I actually did my student teaching at the beginning of a school year in the fall, and then I was hired for the winter, spring half of the school year. So that's my 7.5. And then I had an opportunity to teach in my hometown. I'm from Jerseyville. I graduated in Jerseyville a long time ago, and I had an opportunity to come teach at my hometown. So I kind of took that opportunity. So I've been here ever since. So it's been a long, long time. I love the Upward Bound program. I love what it does as far as the opportunity that it offers. It's a great service organization to help young people provide opportunities to get opportunities to do things that you would not normally be able to do if it was just left to your own devices. So it's a great support system and it's a great platform to show you that you can actually improve life, you can improve your opportunities, and you can move on to the best version of yourself. And that's one thing that I'm passionate about is trying to help people become the best versions of themselves. I am at my core an English teacher. Well, not really my core. That's not the core of who I am. The core of who I am is more in line with number one. I'm a man of faith. I do have an active relationship with God, so that's my core. And through that, I kind of step into my motivational role sometimes, where I play my dad role, is what I say on the Jersey campus, and that's more the advice, motivational speaking, encouragement, trying to push you on a personal level beyond what you're currently doing and help you to excel in all areas of your life. And then, of course, my profession is more in the language arts, English area. I teach primarily seniors, and I kind of teach that middle of the road and lower level seniors on our high school campus because I am more of a relational type of a teacher, and that helps students not only stay involved in school, but helps them because I connect with them, uh, it helps them want to be at school. So it helps them excel just a little bit more than what probably would if they had a teacher that didn't really care about them. And you get that. So I'm going to offer that to you guys too. So hopefully beyond this platform, this methodized learning platform, we'll have some conversations whenever we have our Zoom situation figured out. We'll be able to have some conversations that are more relevant, a little more personal, and maybe a little more on that motivational side to help you excel beyond what you're currently able to do. So a couple of things I want to go through. I want to make sure that everyone is on Remind, first of all. So this platform, which is what I was kind of referencing with Cameron just a moment ago. This platform is an opportunity for me to be able to send messages back and forth. And I apologize for kind of showing names here, but this is our solid group, so you guys know this is the group that we're in. When I send messages out, it goes to the whole group. And whenever you send messages to me, it's just more of a one-on-one kind of a conversation. So if you ever have questions that you want to ask me, exactly what Cameron did just a couple of moments ago, she's asking me a question that did not go to everyone, that only came to me. So that becomes more of that one-on-one type of a conversation. So I do want to make sure that we keep this professional. Ask me the school related questions, but if there's anything that's more on the personal kind of level, then I'm going to ask you to use email for obvious reasons. We're going to keep everything as professional as we can in every platform. Okay. So just keep that in mind as you interact with me through Remind and or through email. If you need to get on here, let me show you how to do this. What you're going to do is send a text message to 81010, and the message needs to be at UB for Upward Bound Kimble, obviously my last name. Make sure you spell it correctly, Kimble. So at UB Kimble, and send that on its way, and you will be added to my group message system. So that's what I'm going to ask all of you to do. And then, of course, email, you're going to get this video through email, so it's going to be that same account. And I think all of you are already connected on there. Okay, so let's get right into our activities. I sent out this schedule, and I want to make sure that we are following this the best that we can. And I don't want to get too far behind. I know with this first week, it's a little bit glitchy. We're trying to figure some things out with Zoom. We're trying to figure some things out with the actual platform. But there's a general schedule that we're supposed to be following, and we're entering the second half of week 1. So we know that the platform, Methodized Learning, has different areas that we're going to be spending time in. It has financial literacy, which is what we will focus on our Monday schedule. It has the SAT, and the SAT is broken down into 4 sections, and we're going to deal with those different days, right? So SAT on Mondays, we'll deal with the reading section. On Tuesdays, we'll deal with math. And also on Thursday, we'll deal with math over here. And then on Wednesdays, we will deal with the writing portion, okay? The reading on Monday covers both of the reading areas, and we'll discuss that whenever we get into it here in just a second. But writing on Wednesday, and then we switch to the academic success platform on Wednesdays. Okay, so it's broken down. We have 2 things on Monday, 1 thing on Tuesday, 2 areas on Wednesday, 1 area on Thursday. And then if you follow down, we have week 1 through 5, we have 5 weeks that we are meeting. We're supposed to be covering units 1 and 2 for financial literacy. Today we'll be covering academic success, units 1 and 2. And then we'll switch over to writing as far as your kind of homework, okay? So follow this. You have this in your email, so do your best to follow this. Even if you cannot get on a Zoom meeting and kind of go through the lesson with us, I'm going to ask you to do your best to stay on that schedule, because on the actual platform, I can see what you're able to accomplish. So let's get right into that. What I'm looking at, this is my home screen. So whenever I log in, this is what I see. I see this information. I have my primary course right now listed as financial literacy. I actually need to change that. Let me see if it'll allow me to do it while I'm, yes, okay, so I can kind of multitask here. So right now I see that not really anybody has done much inside the platform, which is okay for now, but we're gonna start changing that today. This is where I need to switch that financial literacy, and that's not how I was supposed to do it. So I believe I can do it here. See, this is where I'm still learning all of this too. So I'm going to edit my class. this is what I had to do a couple of days ago, and I don't know if there's an easier way to do this or not, but I need to take financial literacy off as my primary course and go to academic success. So we should see that, and then I'm going to go to my dashboard. And then I can open up my class and see all of my students. See, there's my list of students. And then I can view report to see what you've done. So I'm just kind of showing you this side of it real quickly. Again, I know it's early. I know hardly anybody has even gotten on here yet, but this is what I see. And I want to start with that so that you know there's a little bit of accountability in this process. So as I opened up financial literacy, let me get my face out of there for a second. Matter of fact, what I'm going to do is just stop the webcam for now. So I'm gone. Okay. So I see everyone. I see that Cameron has at least logged in and Trista has logged in. That's great. Everyone else has not. So we will rectify that. And then as I'm looking at, it's still connected to financial literacy. So I'll stay there for a second. We know there are different units here. And each unit contains quite a bit of information. So in Unit 1, we see that's just the general overview, same results. And there are, inside of Unit 1, there are 5 different categories inside, or different lessons inside of Unit 1. So whenever you look at this main screen that says Unit 1 and Unit 2, that means that we're asking you to do all of those lessons for Unit 1 and, come on, all of the lessons for Unit 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there's quite a bit of information in there. That's usually about a page to a page and a half of reading, and then a possible quiz question or two that follow many of those. Not all of them, but many of them, okay? So that's what you're going to be asked to do as far as the financial literacy. And then when we switch to academic success here in just a moment, it'll be that way, okay? Which I think I can do it this way. So let me switch to, nope, that's my assigned classes. I'm telling you what, it's weird. I want to view courses. There we go. So I'm started with financial literacy. So I want to go to academic success for today. Yes. And then I want to go into it. All right. So on my end, what I will do as I walk you through the lessons, I will, just like I'm doing right now, I'll share the screen that I see. And this is what you should see. This is your, so my teacher page mimics what happens on your student page. You'll be able to see your individual success on this page. So as you get started in academic success, obviously you would click the Get Started page here. There is a brief introduction to the academic success course. It says, what kind of a learner are you? Learning for me is easy. I don't even have to think about it. That's one of your options. So if you are aligned with that, you're a 1. 2, I have a preferred learning style. Like, you know exactly how you learn. Maybe you're auditory, maybe you're visual, maybe you're verbal, maybe you're kinetic and you've got to walk around, or kinesthetic and you got to walk around. Number 3, if I can't learn something right away, I have difficulty staying with it. So that's a little bit of that lack of perseverance type of person. So if you don't get it, it's difficult. Sometimes you don't finish. Number 4, I think my teachers are most significant aspect of my learning. So if the teacher doesn't give it to you, then you don't feel like you need it. Okay, that's kind of that strict learning where I only learn what teachers put in front of me kind of mentality. So what kind of learning style are you? And as we start this quick intro lesson, many times it has a video to introduce it. I know this one does not. It does actually offer the opportunity to play the audio so it can read to you if you need it read to you. Sometimes that helps, and then you can just follow along with it. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and read through this very quickly. Student profiles. This is from Gabby Kennedy, who is from Baylor University. She wrote, "When I came to college, I was a great STEM student. I knew the best ways to study for understanding the complexity of cellular mechanisms, but I had no idea how to study for classes where I would need to draw upon political theory or even how to memorize vocabulary words for language classes. Since I am now a humanities student studying Russian, I learned the hard way that you cannot study for every class the same way. For my Russian vocabulary quiz, I studied almost 14 hours because I could not remember the words no matter how hard I tried. I was studying the Russian textbook the same way that I would study for a chemistry or biology class, to simply read the chapter or vocabulary list over and over again. I knew that I could not afford to be this time inefficient for the entire semester, so I asked my professor for some tips on how to study for her class. Now I start studying 3 days before each quiz, making flashcards the first day, studying the words from Russian to English the second day, and then studying the words from English to Russian by writing them down the third day. This new method is not one that works well for every class, but that's the beauty of it. I'm a better learner because I have found ways to use a more diverse range of studying tactics. And that's really what this chapter is going to be about in today's course. About this chapter, you'll learn about the art of learning itself, as well as how to employ strategies that enable you to learn more efficiently. After reading this chapter, you should be able to do the following. You should be able to discover the different types of learning and your learning practices. You should be able to make informed and effective learning choices in regards to personal engagement and motivation. You should identify and apply the learning benefits of a growth mindset, and you should be able to evaluate and make informed decisions about learning styles and learning skills. You should also be able to recognize personality type model influence learning and utilize that learning to improve your own learning. Identify the impact of outside circumstances on personal learning experiences and develop strategies to compensate for them. And finally, you should be able to recognize the presence of the hidden curriculum and how to navigate it. Okay, and whenever you read those intros, then you would mark them as read, and then it'll take you to the next lesson. Okay, and it just moves you right down the list. So you have this here: learn the power to learn, motivational learner, all of this. Excuse me. And you would just go down the list until you're completely done. Okay, and then at the end there would be a quiz after you get through most of the lessons here. Okay, or after each lesson, there should be a quiz, and many of the quizzes have like one or two questions. Okay, so let's start this lesson, the power to learn. Okay, and I think what I'll do, just for sake of recording time, I'll read this one. I'll kind of go through this lesson to show you what all of this is, and then it'll show you what you're supposed to do. Okay. So this one says, "Welcome to one of the most empowering chapters in this book. While each chapter focuses on showing you clear paths to success as a student, this one deals specifically with what is at the core of being a student, the art of learning, or the act of learning. We humans have been obsessed with how we learn and understand things since ancient times. Because of this, some of our earliest recorded philosophies have tried to explain how we take in information about the world around us, how we acquire new knowledge, and even how we can be certain that what we learn is correct. This obsession has produced a large number of theories, ideas, and research into how we learn. There's a great deal of information out there on the subject. Some of it is very good, and some of it, while well intentioned, if I can learn how to read, has been a bit misguided. Because of this obsession with learning, over the centuries, people have continually come up with new ideas about how we acquire knowledge. The result has been that commonly held facts about education have been known to change frequently. Often, what was once thought to be the newest, greatest discovery about learning was debunked later on. One well known example of this is that the corporal punishment. For most of the time formal education has existed in our society, educators truly believe that beating students when they made a mistake actually helped them learn faster. Thankfully, birching, striking someone with a rod made from a birch tree, has fallen out of favor in education circles, and our institutions of learning have adopted different approaches. In this chapter, not only will you learn about current learning theories that are backed by neuroscience, something we did not have back in the days of Birching, but you will also learn other learning theories that did not turn out to be as effective or as thoroughly researched as once thought. That does not mean those ideas about learning are useless. Instead, in these cases, you find ways to separate the valuable parts from the myths to make good learning choices. Research has shown that one of the most influential aids in learning is an understanding about learning itself. And then you go on to the next segment. What is the nature of learning? To begin with, it is important to recognize that learning is work. Sometimes it's easy and sometimes it's difficult, but there's always work involved. For many years, people have made the error of assuming that learning was a passive activity and involved little more than just absorbing information. Learning was thought to be a lot like copying and pasting words in a document. The student's mind was blank and ready for an instructor to teach them facts that they could quickly take in. As it turns out, learning is much more than that. In fact, as it at its most rudimentary level, it is an actual process that physically changes our brains. Even something as simple as learning the meaning of a new word requires the physical alteration of neurons and the creation of new paths and receptors. These new electrochemical pathways are formed and strengthened as we utilize, practice, or remember what we have learned. If the new skill or knowledge is used in conjunction with other things that we have already learned, completely different sections of the brain, our nerves, or our muscles may be tied as part of the process. A good example of this would be studying a painting or drawing that depicts a scene from a story or a play that you're already familiar with. Adding additional connections, memories, and mental associations to things you already know something about expands your knowledge and understanding in a way that cannot be reversed. In essence, it can be said that every time we learn something new, we are no longer the same. In addition to the physical transformation that takes place in the learning, there's also a number of other factors that can influence how easy or how difficult learning something can be. While most people would assume that the ease or difficulty would really depend on what is being learned, there are actually several other factors at play that play a greater role. In fact, research has shown that one of the most influential factors in learning is a clear understanding of learning itself. It's not to say that you need to become neuroscientist in order to do well in school, but instead, knowing a thing or two about learning and how we learn in general can have a strong positive result for your own learning. This is called metacognition, i.e., thinking about thinking. Some of the benefits of how we learn can be broken down into different areas, such as attitude and motivation towards learning, types of learning, methods of learning, and your own preference for learning. In this chapter, you'll explore these different areas to better understand how they may influence your own learning, as well as make your conscious decisions about your own learning process to maximize positive outcomes. All right, so at the end of these, then you have questions, right? So this is going to ask a question and see how you answer it, and then it'll move on. Suppose you're learning how to scuba dive. Which one of the following scenarios likely leads to the most significant physical transformation in your brain of the kind described above? A, you read about how scuba diving gear oxygen regulator works. B, you perform a practice scuba dive during which you use your oxygen regulator as previously instructed. C, you watch a scuba video in which an instructor explains the importance of oxygen regulators. Or D, you attend a scuba class in which the instructor draws a diagram of the oxygen regulator and explain how it functions. What you're needing to understand with this is you need the physical, actually doing what it's the learning piece. So anything that's connected to actively doing it is what you're looking for. So I believe that is B. You perform a practice scuba dive during which you use the regulator as previously instructed. So I'll submit the answer. That is correct. And then you can move on to the next segment. Okay, and this is the last piece of this lesson. All learning is not the same. The first fundamental point to understand about learning is that there are several types of learning. Different kinds of knowledge are learned in different ways. Each of these different types of learning can require different processes in order that may take place in completely different parts of our brain. For example, simple memorization is a form of learning that does not always require deeper understanding. Children often learn this way when they memorize poems or verses they recite. An interesting example of this can be found in the music industry, where there have been several hit songs sung in English by vocalists who do not speak English. In these cases, the singers did not truly understand what they were singing, but instead, excuse me, but instead they were taught to memorize the sound of the words in the proper order. Learning has many levels and forms. For example, collaborative learning and showing your work require different skills and produce different results than reading or note taking on your own. Okay, and there's a nice picture there. Memorizing sounds is a very different type of learning than, say, acquiring a deep understanding of Einstein's general theory of relativity. Notice in the comparative examples of music and physics that the different levels of learning are being defined by what they allow you to know or do. When classifying learning in this way, people usually agree on 6 different levels of learning. In this next section, we'll take a detailed look at each of these. In the table below, the cells in the left column each contain one of the main levels of learning, categorized by what the learning allows you to do. To the right of each category are the skill acquired and a set of real world examples of what those skills might be as applied to a specific topic. This set of categories is called Bloom's taxonomy, and it's often used as a guide for educators when they are determining what students should learn within a course. Okay, so what they're talking about, the Bloom's taxonomy words are these words over here on the left. So create, evaluate, analyze, apply, understand, comprehend, and remember. And then the skill that's associated with that. And then it's given you a side-by-side example of music ability. How does it apply to create, all those. And then the second example, historical information on Charles the Bald. Okay, so 2 very different types of learning. And then it gives you examples of how that would apply. Okay, I'm not going to go through all that table with you. A review of the above table shows that actions in the left column, or what they will be able to do with the new knowledge, has a direct influence over what needs to be learned and can even dictate the type of learning approach that is best. For example, remembering requires a type of learning that allows a person basic memorization. In the case of Charles the Bald, remember that's the second example there. In the case of Charles the Bald and his reign, it's simply a matter of committing the dates to memory. When it comes to understanding and comprehension, being able to explain how Charles came to power requires not only the ability to recall several events, but also for the learner to be able to understand the cause and effect of those events and how they work together to make Charles emperor. Another example would be the ability to analyze. In this particular instance, the information learned would not be about Charles, but also about other rulers, such as Charlemagne. The information would have to be of such depth that the learner could compare the events and facts about each ruler. When you engage in any learning activity, take the time to understand what you will do with the knowledge once you have attained it. This can help a great deal when it comes to making decisions on how to go about it. Using flashcards to help memorize angles does not really help you solve problems using geometry formulas. Instead, practicing problem solving with the actual formula is a much better approach. The key is to make certain that the learning activity fits your needs. All right, so this question is, you are performing scientific experiment to determine how atmospheric carbon dioxide, CO2 levels, affect plant growth. You will summarize and consider the results of your experiment in a report. Based on the table above, which of the following phases of the experiment report would best be characterized under the analyze level of learning? Now remember, analyze, as it looks up here, analyze, we're drawing conclusions. It's where you're picking apart the details, right? You all know what analysis is, I'm sure. You design your experiment to include multiple levels of atmospheric CO2 to be tested. You recall learning in your biology class that CO2 is captured by different plants in several different ways, depending on the plant's environments. You recognize that CO2 is used in photosynthesis, a process crucial to plant life. So you use this fact in your report to consider why different levels of atmospheric CO2 would lead to different levels of plant growth. Or D, you use your experimental results to predict what might happen to plants around the world if global atmospheric CO2 levels were to increase dramatically over the next few decades. So you're kind of paying attention to some of the verbs that are in there too. So for example, I'll just go backwards here. You use the experiment to predict. That's a key word there. Predict really doesn't have much to do with analysis. Recognize is a summary type of word. Recall is also a summary type of word. And design to include multiple levels to be tested. Design to test. Design to test. That's probably what your answer is going to be. But just to see what happens whenever you hit something that might be incorrect, if you hit submit answer, it says incorrect. And then it tells you what the correct answer is. And I probably would have got this one wrong too. You recognize, so we're analyzing, recognize, process crystallize. Oh, so you're using it as a fact to report to consider. So that's what you're doing. Your analysis, you're putting those pieces together. You're using that information to write your report. Okay, so I wasn't processing that correctly. I thought it was going to be this one again. So I would have been wrong. So I'm human too. Okay, so letter C would have been correct. So I'm going to mark this unit as red, or this lesson as red, and it would move you on to the next one. And I'm not going to go through all of them in this recording today. That would take a long, long time. Okay, so you get the idea. That's what you are going to be asked to do, is go through those lessons, take the quiz question at the end of each of those, and just kind of work your way through that. Okay. Then what you would do after, so today's academic success, unit 1 and 2, so you would go through all of those lessons, and then as kind of homework or in preparation for the next day, you would do a similar thing in the SAT world for lessons 1 and 2. Now that's lesson 1 and 2, not unit 1 and 2. So that's going to be a much shorter version of the material. Okay. And then on Thursdays, you'll do a similar thing. You'll go into math, since you've already on Tuesday did lesson 1 through 3. You'll do lessons 4 through 6. Again, those are shorter, but we are asking you to do some work on Tuesdays and Thursdays, even though we may not necessarily be meeting together in a Zoom meeting format. Okay, so I'm coming back for just a second. At this point, kind of shown you how to get in there. Now, I'm not sure what your exact page looks like, if you're able to navigate it just like I did. The biggest thing is being able to, from your dashboard, being able to switch from class to class to class. You should be able to do that under under your courses list. You should be able to navigate them pretty quickly, just to go through SAT, financial literacy, and then there's also the academic success, which is on there. Okay, you should be able to navigate those fairly quickly. You go into those, go into the work, and do what you're supposed to do. The reason teachers like Miss Burgess, Mr. Raffelli, Miss Claxton, and myself as an English teacher, the reason we're able to get on these Zoom meetings is to just help whenever you need help. And then we do have office hours on our Tuesdays and Thursdays. I think all of us are pretty much sticking with a 9 to 11:30 or 9 to noon type of a schedule. So if you're doing work during those time periods, you'll have probably better access, easier access to us, because we'll all be on our email or whatever platform we're telling you to get onto. I'm using Remind. So if for some reason you send me an email and I'm not physically on my computer, if you send me a Remind message, usually my phone is with me, so I'll be able to get that pretty quickly. Okay. And we can also create Zoom meetings. I think as long as we get that kind of worked out, we'll be able to create Zoom meetings. So if you do need that face-to-face and you need to have me share my screen or one of the teachers share the screen so they can see exactly what you're seeing. We all have access to this platform, so we all should be able to see exactly what you're seeing and be able to help you very directly. Okay. All right. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and let you guys go. Hopefully that video, I know it's long, but that's how it's going to be whenever we are on our Zoom meetings too. It'll be just like a regular class. We'll be able to go through things. I would like the Zoom meeting a little bit better so you guys can ask questions along the way and answer them a little more quickly. But to work around some of the issues with Zoom, this is kind of my backup plan, is just to create a quick video and kind of walk you through it without the interaction. All right, guys, have a fantastic day. If you have questions, I'm going to be around until noon today specifically to help answer your questions. And then tomorrow, I will be traveling a little bit, but I will have, I'll be stopping along the way. I'm traveling up to go see my son. So I will have access to Remind. So if you do need me, you could have access to me, but there'll be about a 4 hour window, 5 hour window that I may not be readily available. But tomorrow morning and tomorrow late afternoon, I will be available if you have questions during that day. All right, guys, have a fantastic day. I will talk to you later.